Well, a warm welcome to everyone on today's webinar. Again, my name is Laura Lease, and together with my husband, Jeffrey, we look after the marriage and parenting courses here in the United States on behalf of Nikki and Scylla Lee and Alpha USA. We are very glad to have you here, and if you haven't had a chance yet, we invite you to download the little PowerPoint that I am walking us through. There's a little button to click in the chat box. If that's not working for you, please rest assured we will be sending you a copy of this recording in an email in a few hours, and you will be able to see this PowerPoint along with a whole lot of other great information. And we really invite you guys to send a follow-up response to our email if you have any additional questions. So the marriage and parenting courses from Alpha fall within a department called Relationship Central. And these are intended as a strategy for supporting family life in the local church. I speak with amazing leaders of other family-type ministries around the world all the time, and they are all excellent programs. There are several things that make the marriage course distinctive at Alpha, and one of them is it is intended to equip you in your local church or parish to do the good work of reaching out to families in your community. We don't have experts that we will send to you. Rather, we hope to equip you guys locally to become the experts. Our materials are available through DVD. You could also do the talks live, and I'll get into more detail later. But the whole idea is to equip you and your local church to do the work of outreach for supporting family life. So here at Relationship Central within Alpha, we have these 4 wonderful programs developed by Nikki and Scylla Lee, and I'll get to a little more about them in a moment. And they've developed these programs which are intended to help support you through the natural stages of family life. So as couples are getting ready to get married and they're looking to get engaged, or they are, we have this excellent marriage preparation course. In addition, the marriage course will go into a lot more detail here. Beyond that, we also have these excellent tools for parenting. So once folks are married, they'll have those children, God willing. And we have the Parenting Children course, which is meant to support folks parenting children up through age 10. And then those parenting children in the middle and high school years, we have the Parenting Teenagers courses. And again, the follow-up email will have a whole lot of links to help you discover and discern if these are also tools that might be of interest to you. And so the programs were developed by our wonderful friends in Central London, Nikki and Scylla Lee of Holy Trinity Brompton Church. And it is an Anglican church. And what is important to mention, friends, is while it began in an Anglican church, the teachings are not of any particular denomination. They are Christian and biblical in nature, but they are not intended to break into issues of particular denominations. And these guys have been running these programs for over 25 years and have refined them over and over again. It is really an international ministry, and these numbers are already very dated, actually. What's of interest to you potentially is that we have a number of translations into other languages. You can find which those are on the Alpha web store, and we have a limited number in our warehouse. And if you have an interest in a particular language you don't see there, please let us know, and we will help you find those. Alpha is very international, and we have all of our materials translated into so many languages. It's very likely there is something for your particular need. And it is active in most mainline denominations, and in particular the Catholic Church has really caught the vision of these courses. And if you are affiliated with a Catholic parish, we would love to talk with you and see how this might fit into your context as well. And so this is a lovely slide, friends, to just give you kind of a little context for these programs. While they are completely biblical and really a good Christian base to them, they are intended to reach out to folks from outside your church community. People within the church would get a whole lot out of the marriage course. However, those who it tends to really target, because it comes from within the Alpha Church, the Holy Trinity Brompton Church in Central London, they're really intended to reach out to folks who may not already be attending church, may not consider themselves Christian, and it's really a very gentle on-ramp for them to consider, how to improve their marriage. And throughout, they surely will hear some things about God, but very gentle. Also, after the webinar, I would encourage you to go to our website with the links I'll send in the follow-up email, and you can see a sample of the videos to get a real flavor for how gentle it really is. So what Nikki and Scylla have found around the world is that folks might come in, they might start with the marriage course, they might go on to actually attending church service, they might go on to take Alpha. If you are not yet familiar with Alpha, I really encourage you to do so. It will really help you better understand what the marriage course is all about. The Alpha course is intentionally a tool for evangelism, and over 24 million people have now taken it around the world, and it is considered one of the most effective tools for evangelism around the world. You want to know about this program. And so the hope, friend, is that after somebody has gone through any of these courses, that they will then become engaged in your parish or church community through these kind of church ministries you see on the right side of the slide. And so what we encourage you is, if you discern that indeed the Lord is leading you to try one of these courses, in particular the marriage course we're talking about today, already you need to be thinking about what comes next. We really don't want you to start until you know where you might refer these folks on to next, somewhere within your church ministry. And so here's a slide that my dear colleague Rob Reno with Visionary Family really helped to encourage in me. And so the idea that we tend not to hear much about here in the U.S. is this concept of evangelization through the family, the idea of passing on the faith through the family unit. I give you guys some scriptural basis for that. So if your church already has an outreach program and you're into evangelism, I really want to equip you with the knowledge of how family ministry outreach should really play into that. And the Catholic Church does a fantastic job here as well. So the one particular scripture that I really want to draw your attention to is Deuteronomy 6:4-7. This verse will sound familiar because Jesus in the book of Matthew does reference it, but there's a different piece to it that I want to highlight right now. So this is really the great commandment you will recognize. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit at your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And so, friends, the whole point of this is that directly after the Lord gives us the great commandment, he focuses our attention on family life. And so, so many of us struggle with people in their middle and later years, even youth, who seem far from God and far from church. And family ministry is a great way to help us prevent that in the future. And so the programs at Alpha really can be a beginning part of that process. And other excellent programs like Visionary Family, you see the link here on the PowerPoint. These are great programs that you might consider as after the marriage course. Alpha, again, a great program for after the marriage course. And on our website, we have a number of links of after the marriage course. And if you're looking for more, please email me, and I've got some other great resources to recommend to you. So again, always thinking what's going to come next. So this is just a lovely example of the fact that the marriage course, while very active here in the States, is actually active all over the world. And I just want to make a comment. I see my colleague from Canada is on. Welcome. We also had somebody sign up from Mexico. I often have people from around the world, which is quite humbling. And it's the beauty of the Internet. We see China there, kind of the far right part of the map. And in China, the Lord has really opened the doors through the marriage course, which is astounding given the state of the church there. We also have friends in Africa who have adapted the marriage course content for folks who are not literate, and they've taken it and made pictures of it. And I shared that at a training here in Chicago about a year ago, and there was a missionary in our training who was very interested in that. So I just give you these examples that if you find you really like the content and you wonder how that might fit into some maybe unusual and unique situations, please let us know and we'll see how we might be able to help equip you. I think the beauty of it, friends, is that it is really international. And for example, I have friends with another marriage ministry who are going to Australia and wanted to connect with the Alpha and Marriage Course people there. And so we were able to do that pretty easily. So, if you have missionary folks you work with within your church or parish, and you're wondering about connecting them with Alpha people around the world, chances are we have somebody there. Please let me know, and we'll see what we can do to connect you. So this is myself and my husband, our contact information. This will also be on a follow-up email after the webinar. All right, now, what is the marriage course? So all of the courses at Alpha that I'm referring to, the Alpha, the marriage, and the parenting courses, generally follow this design of the course. We much recommend a meal followed by the talk and the discussion. So here's the first thing out of the gate. Folks often ask me, Laura, a full meal is a lot of work. Do I really need to do it? So the idea, friends, especially on the marriage course, is that you are offering a date night for the couples coming on the course. This is one of the distinctives from all the other wonderful marriage programs I've come across, a couple dozen, and I haven't seen them all. There are many that are offered here in the U.S., but I don't know anyone else who says the content is really meant to be presented like a date night. So again, we'll get some great video samples you can look at online later. So you literally, I like to say, you turn your boardroom into a bistro. You lower the lighting, you have the little torch lights, no overhead fluorescent lighting allowed. You have candles and flowers, tablecloths, as much of this as you can handle. We don't want to break your budget, and we'll talk about money in a little bit. If you could do a full meal, do it. If it's too much, snacks and dessert are okay. At our local church here in suburban Chicago, we have done it every which way in the past. We've had it catered. We've had the church team do the food. We've gone to snacks. We have done it many different ways depending on the season. We've been doing it about 7 years here locally. And, I interact with dozens of leaders around the country all the time, and everybody does it differently. So just like every other program you offer with food, you need to do what works right in your particular setting. And again, if you have questions, not only myself, but we have local people around the whole nation, regional directors and advisors with very hands-on experience running these programs who will hold your hand and help you in getting this thing launched. So ideally, you're doing the meal first, and then you have the talks. The talks are available through the DVD, and we also have transcripts of all the talks available for free download from our website. The other theme I want you guys to hear is we try to give you as much for free as we possibly can, and the other materials that are available for purchase at really a very modest cost. The talks are of varying lengths, and so maybe 5, 10, 15-minute presentation on the talks. They're very fun and lively. I don't show it on the webinar because it doesn't record through this particular vendor we have. My apologies. Again, in a little while, go to the website and check it out. They're really fun. And so after the talk, the discussion happens. Another distinctive with the marriage course, the discussion is only between the spouses. There is no sharing with anyone else of your dirty laundry or anything that you don't want someone else to hear. For that reason, we also have background music playing during the discussions, and we recommend really instrumental music so it's not distracting. Be careful about Christian music at any point even during dinner, because ideally you are welcoming people in who may not yet be part of your church. I mean, church people are welcome too, but recognize with the outreach nature of this course, you will likely have people there who might feel put off by anything that sounds very Christian-y. So I hope that doesn't offend you guys, but this is the kind of program you're learning about today. And so we have the background music to help so that people don't tend to hear each other. I've had people say to me, Laura, you know, if it's all DVD, why do I need to show up? Why can't I just watch it at home? And that's a fair question. And, you know, if you are very disciplined, go for it. But what we tend to find is that people don't do it then. We're going to watch these at home. If they have a dedicated time and it's a date night and you serve them, you make them feel very welcome, it's special for them. And if they know everyone else in the room, all the other couples are discussing the same topic at the same time, there's just something very supportive about that, even though none of us are sharing it with other couples. The other beauty about the discussion is that really the couple need to discuss it. There's nowhere to hide, if you will, like there is in a larger group setting. Now, ideally, the couple are coming because they want to be there, but you guys know this. Generally, one spouse wants to come and the other sort of feels dragged along. So something we recommend is that you might just say to somebody, you know what, we'd love you to register, but if that's too much, just come and check it out the first night. We encourage you, friends, to do all you can to make this course very accessible to anyone. You know, think in your own life about the people who are furthest from God, would be least likely to consider coming on a marriage course. What could you suggest that might make them even consider it? So, my own local church, we have that question right now, and my latest thing was give them the website link that has a sample. It's like an 8-minute sample of the marriage course party talk, and a person can get a real sense of Nikki and Scylla's style, and they're very gentle and friendly and warm and fun, and you know, I don't think it tends to put people off. And so that might be enough to get people willing to come check it out. So these are just some suggestions along the way. All right. So the marriage course in particular, our intent is surely to help couples to grow closer, to build a healthy relationship that will last a lifetime. And so what I like to say, friends, is the marriage course is both and. It is excellent content about marriage, but at the same time, it is meant to be outreach. If you will perhaps consider it as pre-evangelism, pre-alpha in our context. Here is a sample of the marriage wheel and the topics. And I apologize, it is kind of small. So there are several important pieces to this picture. The topics inside, if you will, building strong foundations, art of communication, resolving conflict, the power of forgiveness, the impact of family, good sex, and love in action. These are all topics that if you've spent any time in family ministry, there's nothing new here, okay? So I just want to say that these are the kind of things we tend to talk about when we talk about family ministry or relationships in general. And again, what makes this course different from others are these other things I've been talking about. But the content is really quite classic. And it's on session 3 that we talk about, that we be resolving conflict. When we start talking about prayer, we talk about very light, very gentle. And we actually say that if someone in the couple is not comfortable praying with your spouse, you could just say something encouraging. So we make no presumption. We actually, assume that some people in the room really are not comfortable with prayer and God, but they would be willing to say something encouraging. So that's actually right there on the talk itself. In addition, while I'm talking about this topic, in the Getz Manual, we'll get to that in a little more detail in a minute, there is some scripture, just a few, and they're in the margin of the Getz Manuals. Nikki and Scylla do not reference scripture very often, but it's there. And so, again, it's biblically based. It does come from a Christian worldview, but very gentle in how we present it. Back to the picture on the screen. So the rim of the wheel is commitment. So the assumption is that we are committed to this relationship for a lifetime. This is something that's really built into the very fabric of the course. And then, of course, God is at the center, at the hub of our marriage. Again, we mention it, but it's very light and gentle. In addition to these 7 topics, so it's a 7-week course officially, there's an additional 8th session called Coping with Times of Separation. So Nikki and Scylla developed this for couples who might be apart for some length of time, such as military couples, because they tend to deal with very emotional cycles within that separation. It could also apply to couples who have one spouse who travels for the better part of the week, most weeks of the year. So that's another nice piece. And if you happen to have your church or parish located near some kind of a military base and you have outreach to those folks, the marriage programs might be a great consideration if you've been trying to figure out how do you connect with them. I'd really encourage you to consider that. All right. So some general suggestions. Nikki and Scilla highly recommend that you would run a pilot before you would consider offering this to your community. So if you're, intrigued by what you've heard today and you want to give it a go, get some materials, consider trying the marriage course with some leaders within your church or parish or your community, maybe some friends, some neighbors, to just check it out. Multiple reasons for that. One, you can see what you really think of it and if it's even of interest. Two, those people on that pilot, and it might be, 3 to 4 to 5 couples you're with, they will not only give you feedback, but they might become potential co-leaders with you on the course. People often ask me, Laura, how many couples does it take to run the course? Surely depends on how large your course is, and it's really based on the capacity you have for cost, for space, and keeping in mind the couple will be sitting, ideally they're sitting at a little table by themselves, and those are things you can purchase. At our church, we have 6-foot round tables, and we do seat each couple at one table, and we put the chairs right next to each other. We make it very obvious what we're intending here. They're not sitting opposite side of the round table. And so we can only have up to about 15 couples in one of our rooms. If we have more couples, then we need to jump through hoops to secure some other space. And believe me, we will do that because our senior pastor is very supportive of marriages and any program that will support that. So, this goes without saying, but I've got to say it, you guys know this, that having senior leadership support is essential for anything, and for sure, the marriage course, because it does require a bit of resource, but we believe it's worth it. We do suggest when you start that you would use the DVD, because then you can get a real flavor of how the course works, and then as you get more comfortable, feel free to deliver the talks live, but really at its most basic, it is plug and play, which really makes it very accessible for any leader to consider running. And we really do think because of that, it is quite easy to run. People often ask who are the best potential leaders to run the course. And my guess is you guys have already been through that with other marriage programs. A couple who are at a good place in their marriage today, though they might have overcome some challenges in the past. And I think, too, when, they're kind of giving some introductory comments as the course begins, I can share a little bit about their marriage. And, these are the people that the folks get to know week after week as the marriage people. And if those guests are attending your church, they'll see you in the hallway, and it's just another connection point. If these are people who are not attending your church yet, you might be their only link to the local church or parish. So we always are trying to present a very warm and welcoming and loving attitude. It's also kind of dangerous, really, because people are watching us. They watch how we interact with our spouse. And so, we walk in, we want to have prayed before we arrive that we just have the grace to deal with whatever comes. And you guys know there are always challenges when you're running a program, but they're watching us. I had someone say to me, Laura, I cannot believe you and your husband were here every single week. That they paid attention to everything. We did plate the food for them. We did do a full meal the first few times we ran it. They couldn't believe we were coming to them. They kept trying to help us in the kitchen. We had to say, no, go away. We want to serve you. So I just really want to encourage you guys that guests are watching everything. Just the fact that we're even talking about marriage is something that's deserving of attention to focus on specifically and intentionally is perhaps something very new to the guests coming on your course. And so we've talked about atmosphere. Remember, no fluorescent lighting allowed. We want low lighting. I ran into a challenge with this because it's low lighting, and then we have the guest manual, and then the people couldn't read it because it was too dim. So you might have to play with that a little bit. We turn the lights up a little bit We have like 30, 60, 90 watts that we could turn it up when needed. So you just end up playing with it. For sure, we recommend a team. I think I got distracted. So when you run your course, depends on your size, and for sure you want a couple who are kind of head facilitators for the week. You want a couple who are making sure people are signing in when they get there. You want to know who is there. We do name tags. At our church, even though the couples are not interacting with each other, it's just kind of nice to have that. For sure, it's helpful for the leadership couple. We currently have 4 couples who look after our local course, and that just means that not every couple needs to be there every week, but typically we have 2 couples looking after it. But that's just a course of like 15 couples. Nikki and Scylla, when they run it in central London, they're looking at 150 couples, so they've got quite an army. I would say here in the U.S., most courses are at most a dozen couples. We do have some larger courses and for sure some smaller courses. In the past, when we've done these webinars, we've had guest speakers who talk about running these courses in specific contexts, and one of those contexts is a home setting. That is a very popular way to run the marriage course around the world, and actually in Italy, that is exclusively how they are running the marriage course. It's through the home. And so you can imagine when it's in somebody's house, neighbors will feel more willing to come. Obviously, it's going to be a smaller course, might be actually easier on the food. So there's a lot of different benefits. My colleague in New York City, who was the guest speaker on that webinar about running it in the home, she doesn't have the option of running it in a church setting because they don't have church buildings at a lot of the churches in New York, especially church plants. It's too expensive. And so running things in homes is really the only way they can do it, and they love it. And, you likely are running into issues already as I'm talking. Where am I going to put these people? We're already maxed out with space in our church building. So one, that's just an issue of where are the priorities, and is this something you can negotiate? But two, if it's just, no, we got to get our feet wet first, let's start with a home-based course. Just want you to know that's something that we have a bit of experience with, and we would be very happy to help you get that going. All right. We do ask if you are going to start the course, you would register with us. Again, the links will be on the follow-up email. It gets you in the systems, and you hear from us, about more webinars coming up, just kind of keeping you in with this local community. We have about 600 churches throughout the nation who are registered with us. We're guessing there's probably a couple thousand more who haven't registered but are running the course. So it just gets you in the loop, and we're glad to have you connect with us. So this is a nice little slide to talk about how do people come on the course. You guys know this word of mouth is the key way that people consider trying something new. On the marriage course, sometimes people are willing because they see a sign. This is another thing. How do you get people in your community to know? After 7 years of trying, our church has finally purchased a sign for outdoors that sits in the lawn. And, within a week, we already had 2 people call. And that was, they had to see the sign, they had to go to the website and get the phone number. I mean, this was a few steps, and 2 women have already done it, about they and their spouses. So, reaching out through promotion is fine, but ideally word of mouth. And so this is just an encouragement to you about how people get invited, ideally to not only marriage course, but also Alpha in particular. The Alpha course is a great way to invite people through word of mouth. All right, so there are some links. These, again, will also be on the follow-up email about how to connect with all these things I've been talking about. That's a nice little picture of the materials. So if you find after our call and follow-up that you are intrigued enough to maybe get some materials, here's a sample of kind of the best value, kind of a getting started kit for the church setting. The DVD that has the talks on them, and it includes a little leader guide that walks you through really minute by minute how long that part of the talk is, and then the little exercise, then back to the talk and back and forth. The Leaders Toolkit is a great training tool. We do occasionally have training events live and in person around the country, but In lieu of that, this DVD series is excellent, and it covers probably even more depth than we would be able to do in person. So that's really a must-have if you're going to launch the course. The marriage book is an excellent tool. It includes the content of both the marriage course and the marriage preparation course. And it actually has even more content they can have in those videos. And some parishes and churches purchase one of these for each of the couples as a gift, and they work it into the cost of the course. So you might consider doing that. And then the guest manual. So the guest manual is a must-have for every single person on the course, both husband and wife. And it is an excellent summary of the talks, as well as it has the detail about the little exercise and sometimes a little fill in the blanks for the couple. But each husband and wife will require a manual. Again, there's no hiding. And then they need to bring it back every week because there is something we call homework that we encourage them to kind of do something like one of the exercises from class, but they would do it at home. And then they would then bring their manual back. They do not report in about their homework, but it's just something to kind of keep them going throughout the week. And then, yeah, there are some promotional materials, some neat little postcards and little flyers and posters. Everything that Alpha produces really looks first class, and it's very nice material. There's also logos you could download if you wanted to make your own flyer or poster. So a lot of great stuff on the website. So I've talked about a few things. I wanted to answer some questions people typically have about some of the issues I've been bringing up. Cost. Right. So I have churches across the country, all over the map. I would say the lowest cost is a $25 course to as high as $160. So it really depends on the cost of food, and if you're doing a full meal, what amount is the church able to subsidize your course? Thinking about what people can afford, we always offer that there could be a scholarship if needed, but I don't know about you guys, when I offer that, people tend to not want that. I think they feel embarrassed. So just kind of keep that in mind. We've been here in Chicago area as high as $100 to include the food, and that's been either if we did the food prepared ourselves or if we did a caterer who was incredibly cheap. And some people say, wow, I can't imagine paying money to go to a church thing, and I understand that. And so what we try to do is to say, yeah, but this is a date night. Cost it out. It's $7 a night per person. And, nobody can get that here in town for a plated meal, and it's a nice meal, and, of course, it's everything beyond that as well. And so some people, I'm sure, will kind of push back and ask, it's just a little unusual. So just be aware of that. And childcare is another question. I have had kind of half of the churches in the country offer childcare during the course, and the other half don't. So whatever works best in your context. And again, are you going to help cover the cost? Are you going to pass that on to the couple? We personally at our church, we do offer childcare. Just be aware that, it might be harder actually on the mom or dad if they know their kid is in the building. So these are just things you need to do what works. If you're targeting younger couples, childcare might be something you want to consider. What night of the week are you going to offer the course? Again, it's all over the map throughout the country. Depending every day of the week, somebody's got a course running. Locally, we have found the only night that works is Friday night. By Friday night, people can unwind. They don't have to worry about school the next day because we do have a number of young families where we are, and it's the night that works. And so you might play with it. I've had people do Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and then, of course, every night of the week. Nikki and Scylla Lee, the authors of the courses, they tend to run their marriage course on Monday nights in central London. So, there's different schools of thought. One is you get to be known for offering it a certain day of the week. Otherwise, you might want to switch it because you might be able to pick up other people. Another point while I'm saying this is I'm presuming you will want to run this program multiple times over many years. Nikki and Scylla run it 3 times a year every year. And so the beauty of these courses from Alpha is that it's the momentum. And so if I come in the spring and I love it and I tell my friend about it, you've got to take this course, and the next time it's offered is in the fall, there's some momentum there. If it's once a year, which is what tends to happen with churches, little less momentum, but still you're getting to be known as a church or parish who has a heart for marriages in your community. And so we really encourage you to do that. I've had people say to me, why would I keep offering the same thing? My people, my church members have already been through it. Well, remember, this is really not for your church members per se. We love them to go through. I don't know about you guys, but at my church, we have the usual suspects who show up to every marriage program every time we offer it, and we love to have them. However, after they've been through it, we do want to consider keep running the program because we want to be constantly reaching out to different people in the community. So just something to keep in mind, this is always about outreach. And my dear friend from Canada asks the question, which of the 4 courses would you say is the best one to reach into the community? Thank you, Elaine. So this is something for you to consider. What is best for your particular context? Consider the population you work with. Are we in a college town where people are getting engaged? I have a colleague down in a college down in Kansas City, and he reaches out with the marriage prep course to the newly engaged, and he does this marriage prep on a Sunday night at a coffee shop when it's closed officially, and they come in and they do just desserts for marriage prep course. I do have some churches who only do parenting children or parenting teens because that is a particular group they're trying to reach out to. So before you consider doing any of this and you're praying and you're discerning, God, are you calling us to use these materials? Which one? If you're not yet running Alpha, I really encourage you to consider Alpha, perhaps even first, because it really has the DNA that undergirds everything we do here in our marriage and parenting courses. However, that said, I do have a church in North Carolina where my friend has said, Laura, we will never run Alpha. It's just not something that fits us, but we love all 4 of the courses of marriage and parenting. And I'm like, great, that's great. So I just raised the question for you to consider, friends, as you're trying to discern, how God might be leading you in your community. And so just a little challenge to us that if we as Christians don't do anything to strengthen marriages and parenting and family life, then who will be doing those things? And really for you to consider, is your church a resource to support families in your local community? And something else as I'm thinking about that is this an opportunity for you to unite and band with other churches in your community, perhaps of other denominations? That's part of the beauty of Alpha, friends, because God has so blessed the church, bringing Alpha and marriage and parenting to really every denomination and non-denominational and the Catholic Church, that considering getting together and offering, maybe in the fall that we can do it at one location, and in the spring we do it another. So just something to consider that this is universal enough. Again, there's not this denominational teaching that might be off-putting to others. So just encourage you to consider that. As I say that, the parenting teenagers course has also been run in school settings. And so that has enabled us to reach out to folks with, all kinds of different faith backgrounds, Muslim and Jewish and et cetera. So these kind of courses can really do an incredible job for you to reach out to the community. That is the main part of the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and drop those in the chat box right now. Again, I just thank you for being on the call today. We will have additional webinars in coming months. We hope in about 2 months to have another parenting course webinar. When we do those, we do both the teens and the children on the same webinar, and then we will also have another marriage prep course. We tend to do these about every 2 months, so be watching your box for that. My friend Julie says, we have 3 couples interested in piloting the marriage course. Great. But 1 couple is engaged. Excellent. Do you ever intermix engaged and married couples in the course? Thank you so much, Julie. I was going to talk about a couple of these topics. Absolutely. Engaged couples are surely welcome on the course. The truth is we have so few marriage prep courses running around the nation, it's very hard to find them. And so if we know we have a marriage course running, and we have quite a few, we know about 150 every year that are registered. Sometimes we find out about those that are not registered, which is great too. We're glad to know that they're running. And so generally, yes, it'll be easier to find a marriage course for an engaged couple, and we do welcome them. We had one on our course, and they were quite giddy, I have to say. they're very different than a lot of the older married couples in the room. So just be aware of that and just be sensitive to that. But we really don't want to turn people away. Another question often comes up is, well, we're not married, we're living together. Is it okay? So this is a question for you at your local church or parish to decide on your own. We welcomed this couple, and they told us their story. Laura, we've both been married, and we're afraid. And you know what? You are welcome here. Now, that's our choice. You guys need to decide for your church or parish how you want to handle that. Again, this is a marriage course. They're going to be hearing about a godly Christian worldview about marriage. We call it marriage course. We refer to people as husband and wife. It's presumed that people are married, but at the same time, we welcome them even if they're not married. Nikki actually specifically says that on the first talk, as well as on the marriage course party talk. So I want you to know that. If that's something that you just can't do at your church or parish, that's okay. But I want you to know that up front, that is a common question that you want to, that people want to know about. All right. So again, we will be sending you a follow-up email with the recording. And, if you know of others in your sphere and community who you think might be interested in something like this, feel free to forward the email on to them. Absolutely. We would love for them to know about it. Again, we have people around the country and around the world who are equipped with Alpha and Marriage Course knowledge. We'll be very happy to connect you with them. So please let us know if you have a need for that. But because you registered for this webinar, we will be sending you this follow-up email, so you will get that, and we'd love to hear back from you. So with that said, I am going to formally end this webinar. Thank you again. Bless you. A blessed season to you. And we just would love to hear back from you. Oh, there we go. We got the question. Sorry if you're still on. Thank you, my dear friend from sunny Arizona. I wondered about the question, and I'm glad you brought it up. What about homosexual couples? Excellent question. And it's so good. Thank you for bringing it up. So we at Alpha want to be so welcoming to people. On the Alpha course, we surely do welcome people who would consider themselves homosexual. However, when it comes to marriage and parenting, the question has a heightened concern, doesn't it? Again, I'm going to go back and say you need to decide as the local parish or church how you want to handle that. What Nikki and Scylla have done is they have typically referred those couples onto another organization and resource. At the same time, I have some colleagues up in New England who intentionally reach out to the gay community, and they've used the marriage course in the past. So it is really all over the map in terms of how you want to handle it. So we really put that back on you to be discerning about that. We do say, and Nikki does, and Scylla do say to folks when they've contacted them, this course is really intended for heterosexual couples. It's from Nikki and Scylla, their experience, where they are a Christian couple and they are a husband and wife. And so all the content, everything we say is with that in mind. So just keep that in mind. And that also might come up on your parenting courses. The parenting courses, the beauty of those is you can reach out to people who are not married, who might be single parenting. And that is just such a gift. And I don't want to go into too much depth on that, but that's just another outreach tool. So, yeah, that's a great question. And if you wanted to have more discussion on that, let me know. But these are really hot topics we need to be wrestling with as the church. And, I have a colleague, dear friend of mine, who said, we want people to know what we are for rather than what we are against. And so everything, when somebody calls and asks us that, you need to answer them truthfully how you want to handle it at your church. But at the same time, don't let it end there. If they've taken the time to reach out to you, let's have a conversation and see how we can help you and support you in what you're facing. At Alpha USA, we do have the marriage course content available in what we call a home boxed set. Again, that's on the web store. You'll be able to check out later. And so I have some couples who are doing that, husband and wives who need to do it because they can't find a course locally or they just can't make the time for it. And so they are going to try to have the discipline to do it. that is another option for gay couples to consider. So we just want to be so encouraging to people and support them as we are able, if God has allowed us within our local context. So these are some tough questions for you and your leadership team to be praying about. All right, excellent. With that said, I am going to now end the recording. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for being on the call, and we look forward to hearing back from you. Bye-bye.